Hello, and welcome to our Monday edition of CMS Forex News. I'm market analyst Nick Nassad, and today is November 3rd, 2008. Australian housing prices fell 1.8% in the third quarter and slowed to an annual rate growth of 2.8%. Both figures undershot forecasts and show that the housing market is facing several opposing conditions. Though house prices are falling, which should make them more affordable, the lower prices are discouraging new building starts, which is exacerbating a shortage in supply. Retail sales in Australia were up 0.2% on a trends basis and were down 1.1% when seasonally adjusted. The fall in the seasonally adjusted rate was the steepest decline since April of 2005 and undershot expectations. September saw a sharp 10% decline in local stocks, higher petrol prices, and a huge knock to confidence as a result of the global crisis. That resulted in a cutback on spending by consumers, especially discretionary spending such as cafes, restaurants, and other food. The weak spending will give the RBA more ammunition heading into its interest rate, which is scheduled for Monday at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Policy members are expected to lower rates by 50 basis points to 5.5%. Australia's TDMI monthly measure of inflation saw a decline of 0.2% for October, while the annual rate fell below 4% for the first time since January. And in a final release from Australia, manufacturing PMI fell to 40.4 from 47.2, the fifth consecutive month of contraction and the lowest level that this index has been since it started in 1992. The Aussie yen traded sideways today, testing the area around 68.35 overnight. Stocks in Sydney and other parts of Asia were up, while Japan had a national holiday. The Aussie is consolidating after its rally in the middle of last week, and traders are awaiting tonight's RBA interest rate decision and statement. The final version of manufacturing activity for the Eurozone confirmed the weak preliminary reading from October 24th. The index fell to 41.1 compared to the 45.0 seen in September. It was the fifth straight month of contraction and is the lowest level on record, as output, new orders, and the number of purchases all fell at the sharpest rate in 11 years. In the UK, manufacturing PMI rose slightly to 41.5, beating expectations, but it's still far in contraction territory. Both economies are now facing stiff resistance. In the US, meanwhile, the ISM Manufacturing Index fell 4.6 points to 38.9, the lowest since September of 1982. New orders, production, and employment components all contracted significantly, while prices dropped, which should help ease inflation. The report shows a significant slowdown as a result of the recent financial challenges. The pound-dollar pair fell almost 600 pips from its overnight high near 1.64 to trade below 1.58 in the New York afternoon session. It's the third day in a row that the greenback has gained on the pound. Traders are preparing for a rate cut later in the week from the Bank of England and are pairing the gains seen last week for the pound. Stocks in the UK and Europe were up, making it 5 straight sessions of gains. The euro-dollar also rose initially, touching the 1.29 level, but then retreated 270 pips, going below Friday's low and finding support at 1.26. The EBC is also set to cut interest rates later this week as the economy looks to be further and further in recessionary territory. The US dollar Canadian dollar hit a 2-week low near the 1.1850 level as global stocks were generally up today, helping to usher in a bit of risk appetite coming out of the weekend. The gains for the Canadian dollar came despite a drop in oil prices below $64 a barrel. US stocks were mixed on the day as they gave up earlier gains in the late afternoon. As we have been mentioning, tonight the RBA will decide on interest rates. Overnight we get consumer prices from Switzerland, producer prices from the Eurozone, and housing prices are scheduled to be released for the UK via the Halifax Bank of Scotland, though that may be subject to change. Tomorrow, the US will post its factory orders and, of course, hold its presidential election, so get out there and vote. That wraps up today's recap. Thank you for joining us here at CMSFX.com, and happy trading.